Welcome to the Profit Share Mastery Podcast with your hosts, Linda and Pres McKissack.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Profit Share Mastery Podcast. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Pres McKissack.
Hey, Pres, how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing, Linda?
Doing good. Hey, I'm getting excited because we're getting close to our monthly Profit Share Mastery course that we do with our members. I'm always excited about that time because it's a great call and we get to connect with the people who are in our course and get some wins. And we've had some great wins. So I'm super excited we can share about those, and even going to bring some of those guests onto our podcast so that other people can hear the success that people are having. I know I always learn from other people's success. And so I think our listeners will too.
Yeah, I'm excited about bringing them onto the podcast. There's already been some really amazing stories. And, you know, we talk about a lot in the group. Almost $1.5 billion have been shared to date in K2B profit share. And like such a small percentage, like 35% of our company is about the only percentage that actually takes advantage of it, right? So we have a massive opportunity. And I think a big part of that is hearing and seeing success stories of other people who are doing it, so that, you know, that always motivates me and inspires me when I see people who are, thinking outside the box, or they're implementing and doing it. So I'm excited.
Yeah. And I know you and I are on a mission to change that number drastically and have more of our people get the beautiful gift of profit share. And so one of the things that you and I have been doing, we just started this podcast. We don't even have that many episodes, but one of the first things we're starting with is, what is the formula that I've used in all my years? And I honestly think it's probably a lot of people's formula. They just didn't identify it like we did. But what formula actually works if you're going to build anything? And for me, it's been the same formula that I used to build my real estate business to over 200 transactions. It's the same formula we've used to build our investment portfolio to hundreds of houses, and also to build, Keller Williams region of Ohio Valley. And we started this a few weeks ago, and we always start with the R. R stands for, who do you want to be a hero to? What relationships do you need to build? And we always say in this course, don't pick more than about 5, because you can't go deep with more than that. And then if you want to go back to a back episode, 2 or 3 back, you can actually dig more into how we help you choose who should be on your list to build a relationship with. And then the first V is, what's your validity? Because without validity, nobody gives you the time of day to go deep with them in a relationship. And then what is their value gap? And that was the last episode you and I just did, where we talk about how do you uncover what is of value to that person at that time, or what's the value gap at this time.
Yeah, and the key with the value or value gaps is it's what's important to them, right? Yeah. It doesn't matter what's important to you or what you think their value should be. It's what they want, what they're motivated by. And like we talked about in the episode, it's either usually a pain that they're having, or it's a gain, something they're excited to go run towards.
Yeah. People are always either moving away from something, or they're moving towards a brighter future, a bigger, brighter future. So today we're talking about the last letter in our formula. So it's relationship plus validity plus value gap over T for time. And this one I think is the hardest, to be honest. I know it has been for me. Because I'm one of those people that when I believe in something and I think something's great and I can match it up with the right people who I also think it would be great for, I just really think they should just do it, right? And so I remember at one point in my career, I reached out to Gary with an email and I said, Gary, I don't understand this. Doesn't it drive you crazy when you've got this person and you know that this company would be phenomenal for them, and yet they just don't come, and he gave me the greatest response. He said, no, Linda, because whether they come this year or 10 years from now, I'm still going to be here and I'm still going to be doing this. And I thought, you know what? Me too. So I kind of got to let go of being attached to a time frame. And I think also, Pres, the other reason we can't be attached to a time frame is because you and I have talked about it, and we teach it in our profit share course. We can't make a seller sell, a buyer buy, or an agent join. So therefore, we're not in control of the timing. We're in control of helping them self-discover, and the timing will be up to them. And right. So I think once you let go of that, and you're truly following the model and the system and the formula that we're laying out here, you can kind of relax about the time because you know you're not in control of it. I always like to say my longest recruit, I think so far, has been 12 years. And I've got a girl who I think is going to beat that 12 years more than likely. And here's the thing, I saw her on a cruise before before COVID, and she said, "Hey, when are we going to get back together?" And she loves spending time with us, and she will tell everybody in the world that we're the greatest mentors and coaches because we helped her out of through a challenge that she had with some of her investment properties. And you know, I may never get anything but goodwill with that person, and that's still a great return on my time. It's still worth it, right? Because she could say that to someone who is thinking about joining our organization, and I just don't lose, right? So if I just let go of the time issue, I don't lose. I always believe you can't outgive what you're going to get. I think God set it up that way. It's just not possible. And so if we could just let go of what we're going to get and just do the giving, the time will take care of itself.
Yeah, I think the other piece that's really hard is we live in a society today where we are used to more and more instant gratification. And I can tell you from my generation, you know, we don't have to go to the movie store to go rent. I mean, I remember Blockbuster back in the day, right? We went to the movie store, we rented the DVD, we had to come back home, put it in. Today, you just flip open your laptop or your phone and you've got Netflix right there and an endless amount of movies and options. And we just live in a world in which you can get pretty much whatever you want really quickly. And what's hard, and this is true not just for recruiting, but this is true for wealth building in general, it is a long-term process. You have to be committed long-term. And most people are not willing to commit the time.
Yeah, you're so right. It's and you know, and we've talked about this because I think this is mine and your biggest challenge when trying to help people build wealth. Because wealth is not something that happens quickly. If you look at the time spectrum, certain things take certain amount of time. And, you know, the longer something takes, you know, I think it's harder for people to vest themselves in it. And I think you have to be willing to say some things are the long game. They're not necessarily the short game. And so to do big things and to build wealth, I have to be willing to play the long game.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where it gets really hard for people to commit the amount of time. But, you know, I always look at it like this, if you don't do this, what would your life be? And I know we've interviewed a guest on this Profit Share podcast that talked about her being in a world where she saw lots of families who had not been willing to invest the time as long as it took to build wealth and have that extra money for their elderly parents or themselves when they got older. And she said it's devastating at what happens to families who are unwilling to spend some of their time on playing the long game of building wealth.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, Linda, is, you know, I think you have to be prepared for the long game, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be long. You've had some conversations that you had one conversation and they were at a point in their life where they were ready and they joined. Yeah. And so you, and those, honestly, those are the ones that excite you and fuel you on to the next. Although I think you do need that mindset of, I'm committed to this, however long it takes for this person to understand that Keller Williams is the place to take their life and business to the next level. And when they are ready for that, it'll be on their timing and then they'll make the move. I think the other thing is, you know, remember we talked about in our Profit Share Mastery course, there's two ways to build your profit share. You can build it with productive agents or you can build it with new agents. And the new agents doesn't take that much time. There's actually, it's actually a faster turnover. And so, you know, depending on how fast you want to go, the type of people you like to talk to and want to build relationships with, you know, if you get a combination of both, you would see pretty quick wins. And then at the same time, you're also playing the long game with some of these bigger producers who take more time, and it's going to be when they're ready, because new agents have a high need. They need to get a license and they need to be at a place that's going to help them learn how to sell real estate. Right.
Yeah. Good point, Press. You could kind of do a mix of existing agents and and new agents, because that would give you that thrill of the deal pretty quickly with the new agents. You just have to remember with the new agents, you may have to do a whole lot more of them because you will have a certain percentage fall out. And that's okay. That's just kind of the average, statistic for new people.
But the great thing is, Linda, at KW, the way that profit share is set up, you bring those new people in and you plug them into a market center, and then that's all. You don't have to worry about mentoring them or coaching them or any of those things. You could if you wanted to, but there's no expectation of that. The market center then is set up to help get those people productive. So what's nice about the way our infrastructure works is there is systems in place so that you can just, we always say, focus on your first level, right? Bring them in, and then the market center will take care of the rest.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the market center doesn't, the region has great the market center will. And then on top of that, the regions will, and KWRI will too. So there's always plenty of opportunity for that person to grow and do that. And I do get a lot of questions from people wanting to know what they could do with their people in their tree. And I always say, push those people to mine in your profit share course. Let us do that work for them. You go back and out and keep building that front line. Don't spend your time and energy necessarily on that, because that's where people get frustrated, because they're some of their people aren't getting it. Well, they also will get it when they get it, right? Your frontline people not going to necessarily fall in love with profit share right off the bat. So don't focus and spend your energy there. Spend your energy going out building that front line even more, because it's a numbers game. And and don't focus on that, because that's a harder task to do. Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
I want to go back and talk a little bit about the girl that took 12 years. Her name is Jill. And it's interesting because she's actually was in the original MREA book. She was one of the examples Gary gave of the millionaire real estate agent. And it's so interesting because when I one time made a call to her, the last time after she was ready to join, and I can't remember what all we did. I'm sure we invited her stuff. I know we did, because Gary came and taught the MREA book when it first came out. And I invited her, and she had a lunch with Gary, but miscommunication. She didn't understand what she was there for, and he didn't understand her and who she was. Anyway, whatever. But it was a drip, it was probably, I'm sure, contributed to the long game of her eventually coming over. And what was interesting is, because I had listened to her conversations and I had listened to her, I used the words opportunity. I don't know what you have lived your life for the next opportunity to be for you. I don't know what you still have the energy for. And I use those words specifically because I had listened to her enough to know that she'd been in the business long enough that her energy might be draining for the day-to-day stuff. And she might be asking herself, where's mine? What's next? And so it's funny because months later, she called me back and said, give me exact words you used. I got to use those same words on somebody else. And, and it's from being able to be in relationship with her and listen and understand and get a clear picture of where I thought maybe her value gaps were, that helped me have the right conversation that eventually would help her, go ahead and decide to come over. But I think we get hung up on, if they're not coming right away, I must not be saying the right things. And it really has nothing to do with what we say. It's more about, understanding them well enough to get them to things that will help them self-discover that this is the right choice for them, or won't, either one.
Linda and I just thought of something, in conversations with people. I'm curious from your perspective, are there any ways that you ask questions to try and uncover someone's timing? What their proposed timing would be around making a move?
Well, I think, I don't know that I'm trying to come up with a number. What I'm really trying to come up with is what's their biggest, I'll give you a really good example of Pam, and the story with Pam. Pam is somebody who had lived her whole life in such a way that people follow her. She has an it factor. She has a charisma. And when I did my career visioning on her, quite honestly, that's what I do with people that I really feel I use that a lot, to be honest with you. But when I first started asking her questions, why I switched and did the career visioning is because there were things in there that she said that she felt like, I wish I had opened my own office years ago. And so when I heard those kind of things, I thought, man, we need a deeper conversation with this girl. And so I took it to the next level and did career visioning with her. And so I think what you have to do is you have to figure out how to figure out what their biggest value gaps are right now and just start worrying about filling those. And then the timing, you'll kind of feel the moment when it's the right timing to invite them to, let's say, career visioning, or to invite them to business planning, or to invite them to expansion, or whatever the case might be. But I think that's going to come with practice of you doing it. And then also, I think the timing, when you match them, when they see that opportunity is exactly what they need to get all the things that they've exposed to you, that their dreams and goals are, that's when the timing will come together, be the right time.
Yeah. What's interesting, as you say that, as I'm thinking about Pam, what's interesting about Pam's situation is, if you had found me 20 years earlier, this would have been right for me, or I wish you would have found me earlier, whatever. And, I think one of the skills you've learned, I think some people would take that and they would be like, oh, Pam's not interested. They'd move on. You kind of have to take some of that stuff with a grain of salt. I think part of some of the verbiage you hear from people, you have to distinguish, is this what they really believe, or is this the part of the environment that they're in?
Great point, Pres. Or is it a limiting belief that's holding them back? That's a really good point. And that's where, when we talk about the 3 ways to get someone self-discovery, is great questions, great stories they can see themselves in, or experientially. Right. And so that's a great point, because you can't just stop with that what they're telling you is what conversation is going on in their head. And that's probably a limiting belief that you have to get around to get them to self-discover. So knowing Mo Anderson's story about starting over at 50 something and how much her life was way bigger than it was the first 57 years, knowing the stories that they can see themselves in. She is in an environment, you're right, where people are not telling her, stop thinking you're out of time. The truth is, none of us know how much time we have. None of us. And you can do amazing things in a good 3 to 5 years solid focus. And you can have a whole lot more fun and joy doing it.
Yep.
So that's a really good point, is sometimes what they're speaking to you is their limiting beliefs or their obstacles that you have to help them self-discover differently, think differently. And I don't try to tell them, I try to help them self-discover through great stories and different things like that. And I always say you can't sell a person when I've said this to you before, you got to get people to things before, and let's see how far the ideas and the things they get exposed to can take them. I know without a doubt, I don't know, we did take Pam to a class that Jimmy and I taught, I think, or was it business planning? I don't remember what it was. But a lot of the right people, if you can get them exposed to stuff, man, you don't have to do anything. They start flying without you. They start pushing you a little bit.
What I think about, Linda, is it's kind of like a gas grill. And when you take someone who maybe their verbiage is kind of like, if you'd have found me in the past, this would have been better for me. And you take them to an event, they are either going to have a light that lights them up, and then you're going to see a burst of energy from them. Like, they're going to start wanting more. We see that with Pam, right? Like, the Leadership Academy and other things we've done with Pam, it just fuels her up and she gets more excited after those things. Versus you may take someone to an event like that and they may walk away and, not have interest and be tired and all that stuff. And I think those are probably good cues of if you have someone who's wanting more or not, right?
That's a really good point, Pres. I think we need to look for people that this is a match for and quit trying to make it for people that we're not a match for. I think because we get hooked on the people that we think everybody should do it. And this is not for everybody. You get it with the right people, everything works. Their life gets better. Your life gets better. You build your profit share and build your wealth while changing their lives. But you start trying to put the wrong people in here and everything goes wrong. So this isn't a fit for everybody. If you'll just let yourself be okay with that, then all you're doing is looking for those people, like you said, Press, that if I can get them to somewhere to self-discover, that light will light, and my job won't be near as hard because I can't do it anyway, remember? But I can watch them now get excited and move forward and almost not even be able to stop them because they're excited and pumped. So I think we tend to focus on the ones that, at least this is what I hear a lot of people, say to me, well, what about this, one person and, and they're not doing it, or they've got a partner and they want to do it and the partner doesn't want to do it. Okay, this is a process, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like trying to get a seller to sell their house with the wife wanting to sell and the husband not, or the husband wanting to sell and the wife not. You got to get both parties if you got two people, or you got to get to the right hot spot for this person, right? And so I think this is a good point is, the process will work. You just got to learn the process and let everything else take care of itself, no matter how long it takes.
Yeah. And, Linda, sometimes the KW events or the special things you can get someone to that KW has, like Red Day or, any other cultural moment, can actually, in some cases, help speed up timing. I mean, there are people who they're not likely to make a move, and you get them to experience something at KW, it increases that time frame or their likelihood to move. So, I think this is all just relevant to timing, right? So, Linda, what are your final thoughts on the final letter in the magic formula with time?
My final thoughts on time is exactly what you just said. Timing will speed up depending on how you get them to things where they can self-discover. And the only thing you can do is just do the activities we teach in the Profit Share course to make that happen. And then just let go of your attachment to how long it should take someone to join, because that's miserable and you can't control it anyway. And, I would say if you haven't joined our Profit Share course yet, you can go to profitsharemastery.com. You can get all the information on how to join us. In our course, we're going to teach you everything that's in there on how to do this formula. We're also going to walk along beside you every month with our monthly calls and help answer these limiting beliefs and thoughts that are holding you back, and help you move forward with the relationships that you've picked. And we'd love to have you join. We've got a great group. It's fun. To me, it's probably one of the most exciting things you and I have ever done. It's really cool. Yeah. And so we'd love for you to check us out at profitsharemastery.com, come along beside us. And remember, if you hadn't hit subscribe yet, please go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Also, if you would pass this podcast along to any other fellow Keller Williams agents and help us get the word out about our podcast, we would certainly appreciate that.
Awesome. All right, Linda. Great session today. I think my last thought would just be, timing is the hardest part of the formula, and I think you just got to lean into that, and you got to be unattached from the outcome. You got to just be committed to the end goal, which is to help people.
And that reminds me, some will, some won't, some wait. So what?
That's right. Love it.
All right. Have a great rest. Talk to you next week.
Yeah.